The sun hadn't yet cracked the horizon when Eli Turner's wrench slipped, slicing his knuckles against the jagged edge of a rusted carburetor. He cursed under his breath, wiping blood on his grease-stained overalls, and leaned back against the cluttered workbench in his crumbling garage. At 42, Eli was a mechanic with no car to call his own, a man whose dreams had long been buried under bills and broken promises. The sign outside his shop in rural North Carolina read Turner's Auto, but the locals called it Eli's Junkyard. To them, it was a graveyard of scrap, rusted chassis, shattered windshields, and dreams as worn as the tires stacked in the corner. But to Eli, every piece of scrap was a possibility, a chance to build something extraordinary. Eli hadn't always been broke. 10 years ago, he'd been a rising star in the local racing circuit, his custom-tuned engines roaring down dirt tracks, earning him respect and a flicker of hope for a bigger stage. But a bad crash, a hospital stay, and a wife who left when the money ran dry had stripped him bare. Now, he fixed tractors and lawnmowers for farmers who paid in IOUs or half-rotten produce. The only thing keeping him going was a stubborn spark, a belief that he could still make something from nothing. That spark had ignited 3 months ago when he'd overheard a kid at the local diner, Jamie Carter, talking about his dream to race. Jamie was 17, all heart and no cash, with a beat-up Chevy he'd inherited from his late dad. The kid's eyes lit up when he spoke of NASCAR, of speed, of a future beyond the soybean fields. Eli saw himself in Jamie, the hunger, the hope, the odds stacked against him. So, Eli made a promise. He'd build Jamie an engine, one that could compete with the best. Not for money, not for glory, but because someone had to believe in the kid. Eli worked nights, scavenging parts from the junkyard behind his shop. He welded discarded pistons, machined warped camshafts, and pieced together a fuel system from scraps nobody else wanted. Every bolt was a battle, every weld a prayer. His hands bled, his back ached, and his bank account dwindled to $12.47. But when he looked at the engine taking shape, a Frankenstein of trash turned treasure, he felt alive. He imagined Jamie's face when the engine roared to life, pictured the kid crossing a finish line, proving the world wrong. The night before the county fair's amateur race, Eli finished. The engine was a beast, cobbled together from 100 forgotten parts, its chrome gleaming under the shop's flickering fluorescent lights. He called Jamie over, and when the kid saw it, he froze, mouth open, eyes wide. "Mr. Turner, you did this? For me?" Eli shrugged, hiding a smile. "Ain't nobody else crazy enough to race it." They towed the Chevy to the fairgrounds at dawn, the engine rumbling like a thunderstorm trapped in steel. The crowd, locals, farmers, gearheads, snickered at the patchwork car, its mismatched panels and duct-taped fenders. Jamie, nervous but determined, climbed into the driver's seat. Eli leaned in, gripping the kid's shoulder. "You drive like you believe, Jamie. This engine's got heart. So do you." The race was chaos, 30 cars tearing around the dirt oval, kicking up clouds that choked the air. Jamie started at the back, but the engine Eli built sang. It growled, it screamed, it pushed Jamie's Chevy past sleeker cars with fancier logos. By lap 20, he was in the top 5. The crowd stopped laughing. Eli stood at the fence, heart pounding, whispering, "Come on, kid." On the final lap, Jamie took third. Not a win, but a miracle for a junkyard car and a kid nobody bet on. As the crowd cheered, a sleek black SUV rolled into the fairgrounds, parting the dust like a ship through waves. A man stepped out, tailored suit and mirrored sunglasses, flanked by 2 others in NASCAR-branded polos. Whispers spread. It was Preston Caldwell, owner of Caldwell Racing, a NASCAR legend whose drivers dominated Daytona and Talladega. Eli's stomach dropped. Why was a man like that at a Podunk County race? Caldwell approached Jamie, who was still catching his breath by the Chevy. "Kid," Caldwell said, voice like gravel, "that car shouldn't be running, let alone placing. Who built that engine?" Jamie pointed at Eli, who stood frozen, grease-stained, and out of place. Caldwell's gaze locked onto him, sharp as a hawk's. "You Turner? The mechanic?" Eli nodded, bracing for a lecture about his unorthodox build. Instead, Caldwell pulled off his sunglasses and grinned. "I've seen a lot of engines, son, but none like that. You built a contender from trash. That's not skill, that's magic." The crowd hushed, hanging on every word. Caldwell continued, "I'm looking for a new crew chief for my Xfinity Series team. Someone with heart, not just a degree. You in?" Eli's knees nearly buckled. "A job with NASCAR? A chance to leave the junkyard behind?" He glanced at Jamie, whose grin was brighter than the noon sun. But something tugged at Eli's chest, a memory of the kid's dream, the one he'd poured his soul into that engine to fuel. Eli took a breath, steadying himself. "Mr. Caldwell, I'm honored. But I built that engine for him." He nodded at Jamie. "He's the one with the fire. Give him a shot, mechanic, driver, whatever. I'll keep building for him right here. The crowd gasped. Caldwell raised an eyebrow, then chuckled. You're a rare one, Turner. He turned to Jamie. Kid, you gotta try out at my shop next week. And you, he said, pointing at Eli, you're coming too. I need the brain of yours. Part-time, full-time, whatever you want. But you're not staying in this junkyard. Jamie rushed to Eli, throwing his arms around him, tears streaking his dirt-smudged face. You believed in me, he whispered. Eli hugged him back, his own eyes burning. The crowd erupted, not just for the race, but for something bigger, a moment where selflessness outshone ambition, where a broke mechanic's gift changed a kid's life. As the sun set over the fairgrounds, Eli looked at his shop in the distance, its sagging roof and rusted dreams. For the first time in years, he didn't see failure. He saw possibility. He'd built an engine from trash, but more than that, he'd built hope for Jamie, for himself, for anyone who dared to believe in second chances.